Hello, my powerful one. Lenka Lutonska here, creator of Business Energetics. And let's dive into energetics of negative emotions and how to use negative emotions to propel yourself in terms of your miraculous manifestations, in terms of your quantum leaps in business, in terms of everything that you desire. Because, of course, negative emotions are incredible gift, but do we take them like that? No! Most of the time when we feel negative emotions, we feel crap and we feel like, oh my God, everything is falling apart, nothing is happening as I want. No. Today we are changing that. And what inspired this video? Two things. One, I just came from a 2-week-long vacation, and one of my dear inner circle clients shared with me during a session with them saying, Lenka, last week I went through the most horrendous emotional alchemy of my life. She was saying how she couldn't even access any positive emotion or creative power or anything for days, and it felt horrendous. However, on the other side of that was completely unlocked avalanche of clients, opportunities, monies, taking her business to the next level. And actually, in her own words, my business is now locked in a space where I was dreaming about it for the last 10 years. Those were her pretty much exact words. And I thought, because those negative emotions, that shithole that you lived in for a few days was preparing you for this. And the second thing that inspired this video is me. In other words, incidentally or not so incidentally, I too went through a few days of a very difficult emotional state, where normally you might notice, I'm a very positive person, a very confident woman, a very happy-go-lucky woman. However, I had, in fact, also last week, a period when something seemingly little, quote-unquote, triggered me so much that it sent me into this emotional spiral where I felt almost powerless and very unworthy. And I was left asking myself, what the heck is happening here? I literally cannot get out of this. It feels like a depression almost. It was there for a reason also. I too am reaping the fruits of that. And that was a big one. In my world, few days of being drowned, quote unquote drowned, in negative emotion is a very, very long time. So this is why I know that I'm not alone. My client was certainly not alone, where she transmuted these negative emotions into something very meaningful and powerful. And I want to share that with you, the how of alchemizing that negative emotion, even if it's very intense, into something super meaningful, into your next level. So for that, what I prepared for you is 5 distinctive codes or principles, if you like, of negative emotions and associated power practices that together will help you to harness the immense power of negative emotions and turn that mess into miraculous manifestations. So grab a cup of something delicious and let's do it. So let's start with the first code or first principle of emotions, and to me it's something obvious, but I've got to say it, and that is that emotion is a thought coming fully alive in your body. And what I mean by that is that emotion in itself, how you feel, it's never random. It's never, oh, I just feel sad, or I feel happy, or I feel depressed, or I feel stuck. It's never ever random. What's behind that emotion is a perspective, is a thought that you're probably unconsciously engaging with, associating with. You're stepping into that thought and therefore you feel it in your body. Now, if you feel positive emotions, we're not even going to talk about positive emotions much today, because if you feel positive emotions, that means you're associating with, you're interacting with, you are in a thought that is positive and aligned with your soul, that is very aligned with truth of who you are. But if that emotion is negative, whatever type of emotion it is, that shows that you are engaging with, you are in a thought that is a lie, that is not aligned with your truth. So yes, the birth of negative emotion is always a thought that is not aligned with who you truly are. Therefore, a little practice, which to me is an absolute power practice and a habit that every conscious spiritual entrepreneur, woman and man and a leader of this world should have really heavily engraved in us, is this. When we feel negative emotion, don't just say, oh, I feel crap. Let's just not take it for what it is, and ask yourself, what thought is causing me to feel this way? What thought is sponsoring this feeling? That's it. This is where emotional alchemy starts. Emotional energetic code number 2 is this one. When we associate with negative emotion, it becomes a prison. When we witness negative emotion, it becomes a powerful information. Let me break this down. So actually, let's focus on the first part of this statement, and that is that when we associate with negative emotion, it becomes a prison. It becomes an unwanted reality. It becomes a spiral. It becomes a cycle that sometimes is difficult to escape. Here is why. It's a very natural human tendencies to actually associate ourselves with our emotions. So let's say you feel in your body sadness, so we say to ourselves, I feel sad, or I am sad. You interact with the energy of stuckness and you say to yourself, I'm stuck. The moment you say that, it's like you step into a train of the thought. You step into it and you become it. It becomes your reality. I am sad, or I feel sad, becomes your identity, becomes your home from which you operate. I am stuck becomes your identity. And that's exactly what we don't want to do. That's exactly what keeps you stuck. So that is when it becomes a prison. So you, to turn that prison into powerful data, powerful direction of freedom and so forth, you've got to learn and develop a habit of really disassociating yourself from your emotion, and instead of becoming them, associating yourself with them, become their witness. We want to witness our emotion. So how do we disassociate from our emotions? This is very, very healthy. However, I will also say disassociating from your emotions and witnessing your emotions is very different to suppressing your emotions, because that's what anyone can do. How often did you do that in the past when you felt sad, you felt challenged, you felt angry, and you told yourself, I don't want to feel this way. Come on, if I feel this way, I'll attract the bad things, blah, 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 blah. I want to snap out of it. I want to feel positive. What do I need to do? That is spiritual bypassing, and that is conscious suppressing of emotion, which is not healthy. However, disassociating with emotion is literally creating that space between the thought that creates that emotion, an emotion itself, and you. And therefore, when you create that space, rather than being in it, being it, I am sad, I am depressed, I am confused, I am stuck, I am fearful, instead of being that, you become an observer, you become a witness, so you can do something with it. How do we do that? I'll give you a few ways. Number one, once you already ask yourself, what is the sponsoring thought of this feeling? In other words, what thought is causing me to feel this way? Once you identify, let's say, I'm feeling unworthy. I am unworthy. And you ask yourself, what am I thinking that makes me feel this way? Well, the thought is actually that I am not worthy or I'm not good enough. Once you identify it, you can ask yourself, when did I decide that? When did I decide that I'm not good enough? When did I decide that I'm not worthy? When did I decide? It's such a powerful question because it creates that space and it puts you at the cause of that thought. It puts you in a place of responsibility. I decided that at some point, it might be yesterday or it might be when I was 4 years old. That I'm not good enough, but I decided that, and if I made a decision, I can make a different decision, right? So it's very empowering and it creates that space. Another way how you can create that space, how you can dissociate yourself from emotion and a thought that creates that emotion is this. Put in front of that I am feeling unworthy, put a simple statement in front of it that says something like, I am noticing that I am thinking a thought that causes me to feel unworthy. You might want to write this down and think about it a little bit because this type of statement, again, is creating that space, the dissociation, rather than I am unworthy. I am noticing, I am thinking a thought that causes me to feel unworthy. You see? Another example, let's say you feel stuck. You might even ask yourself, what's the sponsoring thought of this me feeling stuck? What causes it? Well, the fact that I cannot decide whether I do A or B. Okay, I cannot decide, or I don't know how to decide, or I'm not trusting my decisions. Okay, those are the sponsoring thoughts. So I want to create that space between who I am and that thought, that emotion. So I will say, I'm noticing, I'm thinking thoughts that say, I am stuck. I cannot decide. I cannot trust my decisions. So in other words, with this type of statement you put in front of those sentences, you will step out of that train carriage, you will create that space, and it will help you to recognize that these thoughts and feelings are not truth, they're simply energy you interact with. So now you're ready to actually do something with this emotion, do something with this thought, because you are witnessing it. There is a space rather than you're being it, okay? And before we continue, I would love to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that is Business Energetics Academy. Because honestly, what else would it be? Because it's Business Energetics Academy where business beyond logic, where wild wealth beyond limits, where limitless success beyond strategy, and where fulfillment beyond measure don't just become possible, they become inevitable. And so if you're watching this and thinking, hey, I want to grow my business from this place and I want to be a co-architect of this new global paradigm in the world, well, you're already being called into the field of Business Energetics Academy. The link is below this video and you will know if it's for you. And for now, let's continue with the magic, shall we? Energetic emotional code number 3. Witnessed emotion becomes a powerful set of data, a signpost, if you like. So now that you know how to dissociate, healthily dissociate yourself from emotion and a thought, now we can truly use that emotion as a signpost, as your body's way of saying something to you, something very powerful, as your body's somatic signal, this is what you focus on, this is where you go. Because in a very simplified way, negative emotion is always pointing us out to the knowing that we are currently operating from thinking of our little human. Little human is essentially the ego mind identity, the current self. I just lovingly call it our little human, that comes with a set of all programming, positive and negative. So it's who we consider ourselves to be right now, our current identity. But of course, we always have access to the higher level identity, whether it's our soul, our fullness, or the next level identity that is calling us our intentional self, and so forth. So when we feel negative emotion, guarantee we are operating from our little human, from identity of our ego mind identity. Therefore, whatever is it that we feel can help us to recalibrate to that next version of ourselves, to our fullness. How do we do it? Well, in a nutshell, each different emotion will have a different gift for us. So for instance, I'll just give you a few examples here. When we feel sadness, typically what it is, it's your soul's invitation or your higher self's invitation to let go of something. It just means that we're holding on to something, therefore we feel sad. So I want to use a drastic example. Let's say your beloved pet passed away. So there is a period of grieving, isn't there? And you feel incredibly, incredibly sad. So yes, it's very, very healthy to grieve, but when you grieve for much longer than is healthy, then at some point you've got to acknowledge that this sadness is truly the invitation from my higher self to let go, to truly let go of my dear beloved pet in love and restructure my future without it. So this is a quite drastic example, but this happens in a many different ways. For instance, a client pulled out from working with you and you feel sad. Maybe it was a little premature. Maybe you didn't finish contract or something happened and they stepped out and you feel very, very sad about it. So it's okay to feel sadness temporarily. Emotions, negative emotions are healthy, so we don't want to, again, suppress emotion. We can allow ourselves to feel. But if it's lingering for longer than is healthy, then you just gotta take it as, aha, I'm being invited to let go, because what is it that I'm holding on to here that is causing me to feel sad? So perhaps I'm invited to let go of this client, so maybe lovingly cut the energetic ties, acknowledging that we fulfilled our purpose. But maybe you're invited to let go that identity and set of beliefs that says, I've got to serve every client into, forever and ever to feel worthy. And that's the highest level of service. Maybe that's limiting belief. Maybe you're invited to let go of some limiting belief. Maybe you're invited to let go of some familiar structure or something that even worked for you. In a nutshell, sadness is typically inviting you to let go of something even good in order to create space for something great. Anger, on the other hand, is pointing us into direction of, hello, my boundaries were violated and something needs to shift here. So for instance, if you run sales calls and you have got no show and you get upset about it, angry about it, that anger is appropriate and it's showing you that your boundary was violated. So what do I do about it then? Do I need to strengthen my standard? Do I need to strengthen a picture of who I am? Do I need to communicate my boundaries more powerfully? So it's an opportunity to strengthen those boundaries, whatever the boundaries might be violated, and strengthen the identity of who you are. Then we have, for instance, emotion of anxiety about the future. I feel anxious about something that might happen in the future. Well, that is typically an invitation from your higher self to refocus on what you want. Because guarantee, if you are anxious about something that might or might not happen, you are focusing on the outcome that you do not desire. So again, very little human habit. What if that happened? What if that happened? What if that happened? Essentially focusing on, yes, something that is pre-existent energetically, but focusing on what we don't want rather than on what we do want, which also pre-exists energetically. So I compare this to a phone call from your higher self that is sending you that energy in your body. It's like a phone call. Ring, 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 ring. Hello, you're focusing on what you don't want. Can you kindly ask yourself, what is it I actually want? And focus on that. What is it that you truly want? Will make this outcome of whatever situation, whatever event you're talking about actually successful? Can you refocus on that? Because that's much more aligned to who you are. That's much more aligned to your truth. So that is what anxiety is your higher mind's way to somatically ring you and warn you that, hello, you're focusing on something that you do not want and is not aligned with who you are. So I'll stop here, but the point is simple. Every emotion, negative emotion, will carry some form of gift, some form of opportunity. So simply ask yourself, once you already dissociated yourself and you're witnessing your emotions, you ask yourself, what is the gift here? What is the opportunity here? What could I love about this negative emotion? And the guidance will come. Emotional energetic code number 4. Negative emotion is divine. So let's treat it as such. And the reason why I'm saying this, and I turned it into actual code, actual principle, is because of such a tendency of us powerful men and women and leaders and changemakers, entrepreneurs to suppress and reject negative emotions. We consider often negative emotion as something bad. Like, I don't want to feel negative emotion. Sometimes we even feel shameful or we're in shame that we are feeling negative emotion. And you know how I know? Because that's how I felt a few days ago. When I was going through that motion of feeling unworthy and feeling really down, really, I thought, and who am I to teach business energetics? Who am I to be a leader of this powerful movement? You see, these kind of thoughts came to my mind. That's because of that clever ego mind identity is to keep us where we are, and that general thought that positive emotion is good, negative emotion is bad. No. Both positive and negative emotions are divine. And yes, negative emotions are divine, and they are divinely powerful. You can do so much, and I'm taking you through some of this process, but you can do so much with the power of negative emotion. You can turn negative emotion into millions, metaphorically and literally speaking. You can turn negative emotion into your greatest growth in business and life. You can turn negative emotion into the greatest transformation of your lifetime. So treat it as such. Give your negative emotion time and space than they deserve. So next time when you feel negative emotion, do not just go into, oh, I don't want to feel this way. It's divine. It's there for a reason. It's a signpost, somatic signpost, what to focus on next. So give it a space. So therefore, a power practice that I suggest, and I suggest to all of my clients inside of Business Energetics Academy, is this. Attend to your negative emotions every single day. Every single day. Ideally, the first thing in the morning. Before you even engage with the world, this is what I do. I check on how I feel. I check how my solar plexus feel, how I feel in my body. How do I feel? And sometimes I feel a little bit of negativity or a little bit of pressure, maybe in my tummy, in a solar plexus. Sometimes I feel completely positive, but if I do feel some negativity, or sometimes there may be a strong knot in a tummy. So if I do feel it, then I consciously ask, okay, what are the thoughts here? Let's come up. Come on, fears and doubts. I want to see specificity. What are those thoughts that cause me to feel this way? Let's do this. So I'll consciously bring it up, surface it, bring those negative emotions to the surface, make them specific, and then do perhaps some quick emotional alchemy. Let's say if I'm feeling this way because there is a lot that I want to create today and I don't know if I will have enough time. Okay, that's just a thought. That's not true. There is always plenty of time for everything I want and desire. So a thought, I see you, I acknowledge you. Your thought, your energy, you're not me, and I release you. Maybe I feel fearful that something happens. Okay, that's not truth. That's a thought. It's an energy. And therefore, my dear thought, I see you. I acknowledge you. And I lovingly release you. So sometimes quick emotional alchemy is all you need. Sometimes it takes minutes. Other times, or for those of you that are not used to this, that are more used to suppressing your emotions, suppress to the point where you don't even feel. Once you start doing this, this may really bring up the years of suppressed thoughts, and you might want to really give yourself plenty of time when you sit down and offload, maybe do your morning pages, as it's commonly thought, when you just do the stream of consciousness and when you write all these negative thoughts with a dual perspective, meaning, yes, you're the one who is engaging with your thoughts, you're consciously bringing them up, you're giving them voice, you're writing these negative thoughts, but there is another perspective of you that is that loving mother, loving father, as in, this is not you, my dear one, this is the energy you're clearing, you bring into the surface. Because if you just go into offloading to the point where I'm thinking these thoughts, then there is a tendency of, again, associating yourself with those emotions, becoming them, and then feeling worse and worse and worse. Okay, so the dual perspective is very, very important, that you actually create, again, the little bit of distance, and you give yourself that space, and you continually reassure yourself you're not those thoughts, if you're processing them, but you're not those thoughts, you are interacting with them and releasing them, bringing them up to surface, which is very, very healthy. Another very powerful practice, especially for those of you who are used to too much to suppress your emotions and don't even feel, and sometimes it even translates that you cannot even feel positive emotion, or you cannot even like dream about the future, then simply keep asking yourself, what am I feeling right now? It shocks me how many powerful women and men are completely disassociated from their emotions because they're so used to suppressing them. And therefore, we have real trouble feeling into our true, authentic desires, which is, in the world of business energetics, is a game and life-changing. But for many, this is almost impossible because we are so not in touch with those emotions. Ultimately, we were taught that it's not safe to feel. So perhaps you might want to stay in the mantra that it's safe to feel. And it's safe to feel negative emotion. Negative emotion is safe. It's my emotion. It's safe. It's safe to feel. So stay in that, and also keep asking yourself over and over and over, what am I feeling right now? What am I feeling right now? This is such a simple practice, but for those of you that are used to suppressing your emotions, this in itself can be life-changing. Because if you're suppressing those emotions so much, not only you cannot dream or connect with your authentic desires, not only you're playing too safe, not only you typically work very hard to get what you want, but also oftentimes it shows somewhere in your body that you're not expressing emotions. There's oftentimes even chronic illness present because the body so wants to communicate this emotion, but you're not listening, okay? So keep asking yourself, what is it that I'm feeling? And it may become difficult to you. It may come out, I'm not feeling anything. No. Beyond, what am I actually feeling? You may be coming out with something, physical sensation. I feel cold. I feel warm. Fine. Beyond that, what am I feeling? Keep going, because you've got to re-establish that connection with your emotions. So I'll say this quote again. Emotions and negative emotions are divine and divinely powerful. So treat them as such. And finally, I want to share a code number 5 through which we'll close this video, and that is that emotion amplifies unless alchemized. So it's obvious from what we talked about already. You already perhaps heard the phrase that emotion is energy in motion. Yes. Emotion is energy in motion. And if we just keep on autopilot associating ourselves with those emotions, if we keep even one sponsoring thought unattended, it can spiral into more and more of that emotion. Let's say you have a fleeting thought, I'm not good enough, and you ignore it or you want to suppress it. Well, if you just suppress it and you don't attend to it in a healthy way, then where is it going? Of course, it stays in your energy, in your body. And energy compounds. So that fleeting thought, I'm not good enough, you know what it will do? It will work in your energy like a magnet. It will call upon it another thought that is similar to not good enough, I'm not worthy. Something will happen that will show you that you're not good enough. And before long, you're in this spiral and a cycle of feeling unworthy or not good enough, and you feel powerless. So please, when it comes to positive emotions, Yes, we want to let positive emotions amplify and amplify and amplify. This is why I've got plenty of practices for that inside of Business Energetics Academy. But when it comes to negative emotion, when you have even fleeting negative feeling and sponsoring thought behind it, don't ignore it, attend to it, alchemize it. Yes, becoming a masterful emotional alchemist is a prerequisite, is not optional. Why? Because we all feel negative emotions. It doesn't matter how powerful leader, entrepreneur, change maker you are, at some point you will feel negative emotion, maybe on a daily basis. And we've got to know how to transmute and alchemize every single bit of negative emotion into something very meaningful, into those millions, metaphorically speaking and literally speaking. And this is what we do inside of the Academy. This is reason 127 why, if you're not inside of the Business Energetics Academy, you want to be inside of Business Energetics Academy. Because yes, you will get plenty of tools to help you become a powerful emotional alchemist, but also it will give you the fullness of that identity into which you're stepping, whether it's limitless creator or a change maker that creates extraordinary changes in your life and in many, many people's lives, or limitless millionaire, when you scale that power of yours into financial abundance, into the impact that you were born to make, or legacy leader inside of Inner Circle. You will get a fullness of that identity, which you won't get anywhere in the world, in a way that is perfectly braided, that feminine and masculine energy, feminine energetics and masculine application and earthing into every structure of your business and life. That's what you'll find inside of Business Energetics Academy. So if you're not there yet, I highly suggest to have a look and to explore Business Energetics Academy, or maybe even ask us to set up a call between you and one of our incredible business energetics mentors, which can help you to see which one of the 4 core pathways of Business Energetics Academy is perfect for me. You will find all those links below. For now, I will also below somewhere put a link to Instant Energetic Alchemy, which if you don't have, it's a little gift from me to you, and that is audio that will help you to put into practice what we talked about and alchemize your emotions on daily basis more easily. It's a very powerful, only 10 or 11 minutes audio that will take you through the process of powerful, energetic, almost instant alchemy. So if you don't have it, you'll find the link somewhere, get it, use it, and alchemize those emotions. And here is to your incredible growth. As always, with a fierce love for you and your vision. I'll see you next time.